Hey everybody, Tim Shaw here. It's so great to see you guys. It is what? It is a Wednesday night, and we are here in the snow belt. We've got roughly where I live, which is just east of Buffalo, New York. We got about 3 feet, and came roughly within 2, 3 days. So we've been digging out for a while. But you got to think of it like this. You always got to think of it like, well, it happens. It's what it's all about here. Those of us that have lived here all our lives, it was always fun. I forget, there was a country. There was a country group that years and years ago, my wife and I went and saw, and one of the singers was from Buffalo, and he said that he started laughing. He said, in Buffalo, he says, it's amazing. I go down to Nashville. Hey, Peg, how are you? Hey, Colette, how's life on the other side of the world there? How's everything in Britain? Hey, Amy, how are you? Um, Nashville or any place down south where he's lived. Hey, Jay, how are you? He goes, they get an inch of snow. It's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. Buffalo, you guys get 2-3 feet, you dig out and you go to work. Like nothing. It's the truth, but it is the truth. So everybody's been pretty good up here. Winnie, of course, is out there trying to navigate out there. We have a cul-de-sac that we've dug for her, literally, because the little, she's a chocolate lab, so she's looking up over the top of the snowbank. So everything is great, but otherwise everything is quiet. And the one thing that I will show you is I have something that came in the mail, and probably tomorrow. I tried to open it up the other day, but I lost power, and we'll try to go and do an unboxing, because I think this is a locket in there, and it's got something that's really special, something to do with Victorian mourning. So we're going to enjoy. I want to enjoy taking my time and opening it up. Now tonight, I have a great guest. I have someone. You know what? I admire her. She is great. She's a lot of fun. How can I describe her? She's excellent. I'm just going to come right out and say it. She came to my classes, so I'm a little bit more proud. I'm a little bit more proud of her. When I have a student, but she is a great. I won't say just excellent. She's a great reader, great medium. Really is spot on with so much. She's read for me a couple times, and I was always impressed by everything that she had said to me. And what else is she? Oh, let me look at my notes, because you always know that I have two types of guests. I have some guests that are noteworthy, and some guests that are not noteworthy. So she's noteworthy, just to let you know that. Hey, Diana, how are you? Hey, how did you dig out? I saw South Buffalo was pretty bad. Hello, wonderful Nancy. Hey, Rebecca, how are you? I'm just going to say, Leslie is a great metaphysician. She encompasses so much. Again, she's a medium. She's a Reiki master teacher. And most important of all, she is, how can I just lovingly describe this? She's actually molding the minds of our youth. She's a Spanish instructor, and I don't know how she does it, because I have no patience for people my own age. That's why I don't go to the gym in the morning with retirees. I can't stand it. So she is like a superhero to me. So everyone, let's welcome to the Black Cat Lounge the amazing Leslie. Now I can't say your first name, Leslie Roberson. Hey, Les, how are you?
Hi, Tim. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that fantastic introduction.
Well,
you always call me the amazing Leslie, and you're the terrific Tim.
I used to be terrific. Now I'm just amusing on Friday nights. That's the way that works. That's, as you get older, the week gets shorter for you. That's all there is to it. But listen, amazing. I have to. There are some people that I get a chance to meet with, and you can tell, like, right off the bat, that they have something about them. They have that sight. You can just feel it. And I don't understand personally how I get to see that or how I get to feel that. But you were always one of those people that I always felt was a very genuine person. And when I watched you work a couple times before we got to know each other, I was like, wow, she's the real deal. How did you get involved with this?
That's kind of like an interesting story because honestly, back when I was younger, like it just wasn't on my radar. Like I didn't have an interest in it. I don't know, I just wasn't aware. And I think that I've really like always had these abilities. I just thought everybody did. I just thought everybody was like I did. I just thought everybody knew stuff and could feel stuff. And it took me a while to figure out that that wasn't the case. And honestly, this, it kind of leads into the topic that we're talking about, like the mind-body connection. Is I had Lyme disease years ago, and at that same time, a friend of mine took a Reiki course, and she told me about it. Never heard of it. I went to the course, and I said, is this going to take my energy? And he said, no, like, give a healing, get a healing. And the more I did Reiki, then I remember the very first time I was doing Reiki on my friend's son, and I heard something. I heard he has a fungal infection in his lungs. And I literally looked up at the sky, and I was like, who said that? Right? Like, I had no idea. And I told his dad afterwards, he's like, how would he get that? I go, I don't know. I don't even know why the hell I'm saying it. And then I went on and I took, meditation courses and intuitive development courses, and, always got messages when I was doing Reiki, and then went on to mediumship courses. So that's kind of how I got into that world of, the metaphysical.
Well, let's back up a little bit. That is so similar to sort of something that happened to me. My history is I go back till the 70s, way before you were born. And, I was helping Noah, or I should say I was helping Moses actually bring down the 10 Commandments, and I helped Noah build the boat,
the ark.
the whole thing, But I had stopped for a long time, and I had came back to it through Reiki, through that whole practice of Reiki. And I had the same thing where the voice in your head just comes in, and it's so loud. It's like, who said that? And at that point, I realized that it was time to come back into what I was doing. Now, in your case, had you been like exposed to this before, or
no?
That's amazing.
Never. I always, now that I can look back at it, like I was always very intuitive, and I would say knew things, right? Like I remember, when my husband's parents were getting divorced, we were young, we were just dating. And I said, what's wrong with your mom? And they said, she's fine. And I was like, no, she's not. So like that kind of thing. I always just, kind of knew stuff, but I never actually like heard something, or I never like got a vision about something. So I didn't realize how much of my life is run by intuition, or like kind of my just knowing. I don't know. Like I just do it because that's what I'm supposed to do,
Now, was there any fear? Because I know a lot of people that get into this field, whether it's mediumship or any kind of healing, and I'm just going to broaden the whole spectrum, like those that I know within like the Christian faiths that believe in the gift of prophecy, the gift of tongues, and become healers, and all the other people. As a spiritualist, I've got a lot of friends that are healers. I'll just put quote unquote healers. Was there any fear involved with you, or is it just something that you just like faced naturally and said, hey, this is just natural, this is what I can do?
No, definitely no fear. It just was like very natural. And at that first Reiki course, like I said, I had Lyme disease, and I actually took a year off, a leave of absence from my job to rest. And when I said, is it going to take my energy, and he said, no, give a healing, get a healing, I was like in instantly. And like the more I did it, like it was very relaxing for me. Like I'm definitely a type A personality. Always go.
No, not you, Leslie. No,
I know,
not you.
I know. Can barely get me off the couch sometimes. But yeah, doing the Reiki was just, it was fantastic for me. Like, my clients didn't realize how much of the benefit that I was getting, especially at the beginning, because it forced me to slow down, where I was never slowing down. And
Hmm.
I desperately needed that, apparently.
Well, no, you're not the only one, because I know myself. It's tough.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm one of these people that I have like only two speeds:
Yeah.
stop totally or go.
Yeah.
And and I've found that with working with Reiki, it just sort of slows you down. You're able to go,
Yeah.
and it feels, and a lot of times it feels like your body's trying to catch up to
Yeah.
everything that's going on. I always tell people it's your DNA changing. It's not really.
Yeah.
It's just what I
Right.
call it.
Right.
But uh, I think that it's really important. And the other thing is give a healing, get a healing. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of the different see, this is where I part ways in many ways with the spiritualist religion, that the way I was taught,
Yeah.
uh, because they always had, uh, I would say, a middleman that was
Mm.
bring the energy into like the
Mhm.
spirit guide, and the spirit guide would channel it into you, and then it would
Mhm.
direct through your hand, blah 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 blah. And
Mhm.
whereas Reiki, now correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't look at my Reiki cheat sheet lately. Uh, it's in one of my it's in one of my desk drawers someplace. But the universal energy goes
Yeah.
through you.
Yeah.
Thus, you're getting a healing as
Right.
you're conducting the healing. Now,
Right.
do you think that in many cases that this is something that anybody can do, or is it something that you have to be really, I mean, again, I know hands-on healers
Yeah.
from different faiths, and Reiki is very, very regimented. Of course, I mean, it's gone through different
Yeah.
incarnations over the years. Uh,
Yeah.
do you think that anybody can do this, or do you think that it is just within the realm of the actual practitioners who have trained themselves?
Yeah. I would say that I feel like anybody can do it. I mean, I say that because of the, as a mom, when your children's hurt, right? Like it's your first instinct to put your hand on them, right?
Hmm.
So there's that healing. There is some type of healing going on, and then add in the Reiki and, the universal life force energy that's like coming through you, now you're kicking it up a notch. And I feel like, the more you practice, the more you work on yourself and become that open channel, I feel like the more powerful, your healing gets. Like I remember when I first started and I was like, am I doing anything? Like I don't feel anything, right? Like as the practitioner. And at the end they would be like, yeah, of course, I'm relaxed, but now that it's been many years, I can feel it. Like it's, I'm sweating. I'm literally sweating for like the first 10 minutes. There's so much energy. There's such a
Right.
download that so yes, can anybody do it? Sure. But I feel like there's degrees, and comes with practice too.
Next question that comes up. These are
Hmm.
all logical questions that I ask people. Uh,
Yeah.
not that I'm logical. I mean, I think my biggest bitch when it comes to uh, different people, different modalities, different people who do healings, people who do readings. Do you feel that it's important to have mentorship? Because I I'm a big stickler on that. People who come up to me and well, I'm sure you have the same problem, and I shouldn't say it's a problem, but I mean, I get 100 people that walk up to me at a conference and says, I am a medium, I am a blah blah blah, and when I ask them about their training, they have a
Hmm.
blank look on their face.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's not even a point of their reading it. It's a point of them just like they saw somebody do it, now they do it. Do you think it's
Yeah.
important, and do you think it's more effective if you go through a mentorship or a training program?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I could teach myself anything. Like that's
Mhm.
just how, I learned like show me book. I'm a visual learner. Let me read and I'll digest and I could do it. But the effectiveness of it, I think that's where the variation is going to come in when you have a mentor and who you can ask questions and who's going to give you pointers and tips on how to enhance and make it better. Um,
And if you have a good instructor,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
absolutely, the best. I learned from
yeah,
the best
yeah, the
here.
best, yeah, the best. All right, yeah, and I'm a legend of my own mind, Leslie. You know that. But you
You
know
are a
what?
legend.
I always like to tell people, this is the way I do things. You don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is help you not make the same mistakes that I made along the way.
Right.
And to me, that kind of streamlines it. And that really, and I think when you start talking about energetic work, you can really push it into that mold, into that focus, into that goal, in order to go and open it up and to be more effective. And, I've had people come up to me and say, well, when X so-and-so does healing on me, it's okay. But
yeah,
you don't even have your hands on my shoulders.
Right.
And I can feel exactly where your hands are. Now, I think that's just because of the fact of the training that I have, because I really feel that it's more focused energy.
Yeah.
And do you think that this focused energy? Okay, I know the answer to this one. That's host lesson number 101. Always know the answer to the question that you're going to ask. Do you think that this energy is, now we're talking about using it in a positive way, in a positive manner, for a positive outcome? Do you think this can be diverted, could be perverted, and make it become negative in some way? Because I know a lot of people that have come for Reiki sessions, not just to myself but to other people. They're worried about that.
Right. God, I don't know. I would, from my mind, no. Like it's positive. Like I feel like part of it is your intention, right? Like before I start a Reiki healing or a reading, it's like highest and best healing and empowering. So there's not room for the negative there,
Exactly. That's what I always see. The intention to me is what's more important. I feel that we're using, not that I would do this, Leslie, not, you know me, not that I would ever use any kind of energy for negativity,
Right.
not that I have spell boxes and all this other stuff all over the place here. But I do believe that the energy is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that energy being neutral, we can color it in some way.
Yeah. Right.
And whether it's for good or bad. And I think that's all personal preference. Of course, I'm a karma guy, so I know that no matter if it's bad that goes out, it comes back at you.
Coming
no matter
back sometime.
What. Yeah. I mean, it's that is sort of like almost like a universal belief. So that's why I always tell people, my intention for you is to A, B, and C, high, better, the highest and best, and everything that we can get that out there and just, be able to go and show that to these people. But I think in the flip side, I do believe, hey, Ange, how are you? I do believe that sometimes this stuff can be perverted. And I believe that this is the problem that we run into when it comes to like unclean locations, people that have attachments. I do believe that sometimes this stuff can be perverted, whether it is sent or whether it is intrinsic. So we always, I believe that's something that we have to really look at and work with. Now let's talk about your mediumship. Let's talk about your mediumship, kiddo.
Yeah.
You knocked my socks off the first time you gave me a reading, and that was before you went to my classes, I think it was probably the first time we all went to. I think I met you at Dragonfly Art and Soul and in Wayneville, and I can't remember. We were talking about something, and he gave me like this little blurb, and I stood there and went, "Oh, she's the real deal." Okay, that's kind of impressive. When the mediumship started, describe to everybody when the hardcore mediumship started. When you started getting those, everybody gets intuition, everybody is clairsentient, but when it really started to slap you on the side of the head and you're like, I got to get this out to that person.
Yeah. I would say that came not as naturally to me, honestly. The mediumship side of things. Angie, I know, just popped on here. So hi, Angie, if she's still watching. But
she's great, isn't she? I love her.
She is. And I did her mediumship program. So that's where the mediumship.
Awesome. She's awesome.
Yeah, came in for me. So that one at first was a little bit, earlier you asked me about fear, and I really didn't have any fear, but I will say it was a little bit of like, oh, I'm talking to dead people, like that kind of thought, like, oh, I can do that. Like, oh my God, right? Like, that's pretty amazing. But I took a class several years ago at Fellowships of the Spirits, like spiritual insight training. And it was when the instructor was talking about how healing, right, mediumship could be. And like, told the story about a couple that had lost their child and how they could visibly see a difference from the time they came in to the time, so when the reading was over, and how much it was healing for them. And that was really when I was sold on the mediumship side of it. It wasn't just like, I'm going to talk to great grandma and see like where she hid her pearl earrings or something like that. It's, it's a
Exactly.
real sense. Yeah.
And just let you know, Angela wrote, "I'm here. You're awesome, Leslie, and you're an excellent medium." See, all your instructors love you. That's what it is, You know, when you got a kid, you got it. That's the way it works.
Right.
But I think a lot of it was apprehension. And I know even like for me, it's sort of like I'm trying to even describe how it is. I mean, I was brought up in it. So I mean, it wasn't
Right.
like so shocking to me,
Yeah.
but when it first hit me, it was like a sledgehammer. It was like bang. It was like the words were there. You just sit there and you go, "Oh crap!" This. Not what did I do to myself? Why did I do this? And I mean, I
Right.
was young. I was young at the time. But I think as time goes on, it just becomes like second nature, and it doesn't really bother you, and that's what's really good.
Right.
I got a question from the chat room here from hello, Commander Bill. Bill is from the USS Edson in Bay City, Michigan. He's a good friend of mine. Tim, do you or Leslie ever meet some of these folks that claim to be this or that, but you just go and go to say you got to be kidding me? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They're out there. Yeah. They're out there for sure.
Bill, I do this. Really? That's interesting. So if I ever do that to you, Bill, you know what that is. That's
Yeah.
my go-to thing at conferences. Really? That's interesting. That had actually happened to you? Oh my, wow. Tell me more. And in my head, I'm yelling, no, 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 I don't.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my God. That's too funny. But it's, with mediumship, do you find that they're interconnected? Now, this is something that I struggled with. Again, coming up through modern spiritualism, coming up through the old ways, the old blue hairs, the way they taught,
Mm-hmm.
the way that they went and indoctrinated you. Because I went to a Roman Catholic school, to a parochial school,
Right.
and the big thing is that you get catechism there, and you're being indoctrinated. It was the same thing in spiritualism, the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I remember everything that was taught to me was separate. It was all individualized.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was universal. And I'll always remember, because I'd gone through I'd done the healing classes and the mediumship and all this other stuff, and then, rescue circles and this whole thing. I realized that everything is universal. One
Yeah.
source. Is this
Yeah.
something that you have found that you work with, that you have found as your truth? And when you think about it, does it help you actually focus more on the task at hand?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, when I'm talking about readings, I feel like there's a specific order that I always do my readings
Mm-hmm.
in. And mediumship isn't the first one. It's always like, what's the core issue, right? And sometimes that is mediumship, but sometimes it's not. They might, the client might not be there necessarily to talk to a loved one or to somebody who has passed. But, as I'm speaking and saying they, then sometimes they're like, well, who's they? Like if it could certainly be one of your loved ones. I just
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
specifically connected yet, to one particular person to give
True.
you a direct message from them.
Yeah. Perfect. The other thing that I found is that when I'm working with you, and again, you had the same thing. You had the exact same thing that happened to you when you were doing Reiki and you got the message.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me. And at that point, that's when I realized that we're putting so much crap on what we're doing
Hmm.
that it's so simple. The universal
Yeah.
energy flows through. And
Yeah. Right.
at that point, I realized that, let's break this down to the old KISS movement. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
by doing that, I found that I become more effective. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this about becoming effective. What do you think you've done to become more effective in both your healing and your mediumship?
I would say number one is practice, right? The practice makes perfect is what you say. And kind of going back to another thing that you talked about mentors, and like, yeah, I think it's super important to have a mentor. And you make the statement, you always tell people like, this is how I do it. You don't have to do it that way. And Angie would always say, take the best, leave the rest. So I think it's important for you to study with a couple different people and to learn their
Exactly.
different techniques to find so you can hone your own skill. And
Exactly.
then, and lastly, I will say what you said about, keeping it simple, like how it happened to you and me with Reiki. I wasn't doing anything, when you're relaxed and it's effortless, like,
Yes, it's
it's like
second nature.
nothing. It's there, you can't really explain it. It's just there for you already.
It's kind of funny because I get this question asked a lot, and especially when I was filming. Portals of Hell was my favorite, my favorite crew to work with, because I had known Katrina Weedman for years, and of course Jack Osborne was on there, and I had worked with one of the producers on a previous project, and he goes to me, he goes, Tim, you're the simplest person to work with, and I'm like, why? I'm simple, is that maybe, yeah, I guess I am. But he said, no, he says, because we would bring people on site and they would have to like get into what I call the zone, meditate or
Oh,
whatever.
right.
And it would take
Yeah.
them like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And
Oh, yeah.
that would back up production, where
Right.
I just come in and I just take a
Yeah.
breath,
You're
and it's
like,
like, and
go.
I and I
Yeah.
and I, and I let's go. 4 hours later, I'm back in my hotel room napping
Yeah.
while the rest of them are out there running around with funny gadgets and
Yeah.
and flashing lights. And what I have found is that if you can make it effortless,
Yeah.
that you become far more effective. But then let me ask, okay, this is another thing that I wanted to ask you.
All right. And I have a question for you too.
Okay. Well, my
What?
my show I'll ask first, damn it. No, 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 no. Uh when we start talking about effortless, when we start talking about letting it flow, have you ever questioned whether it's your imagination or it's a real message?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially at the beginning. And like, did I just make that up? Did I make that up? And then sometimes,
Exactly.
you know, but that's the intuitive side of your brain, right? Like it's also the imaginative side of your brain.
Exactly.
Um, and then sometimes the one that does still every now and then throw me for a loop is like when the message that I'm supposed to be passing is like 100% a message that makes sense for me. And I'm like, oh shit, that's for them, right? Like it's right. You want me to send that to them? You're not giving me a little message on the side, right? So yeah,
Sometimes that happens. I know myself.
yeah,
But what I found is sometimes it's a universal message that they need to hear and that you need to hear, and it's
yeah,
coming from one of their loved ones. And if you can take it and they can take it, you've really hit a home run on that one. That's
yeah.
what's so great. Okay. Okay. Now, Leslie, I am afraid because now you have a
No,
question for me.
oh,
And
I have an
and
easy one. It's easy. You talked about making it effortless and like how you can just show up and turn it on and like, because you're very simple to work with. Did you start out that way or yeah, it's just kind of progressed and right.
what happened was I started out like everybody else. I had to go and I did the meditations, and I would sit there. And what happened was when I was serving a church, this one spiritualist church, you had to be ready to give messages in the middle of the church service, right? But you never knew who was going to get called.
Yeah,
Like
right.
if there was two or three of you, well, there's a good chance you're going to get called. But if
Yeah,
there was like, 10 students there, you don't know who you're
right,
going to get called. You don't
right,
know. So you
right.
had to be ready all the time.
Right.
and that helped. But still, I had to like sit there and get my brain together and like put
Yeah.
earplugs in so my brain didn't drip out my ears while I was doing that, and trying to be focused and uh and doing the pious thing. It's like, oh, I'm trying to do this. And then I
Yeah.
went to I took a class with Tom Brown Jr., the American tracker and mystic, at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, and it was for natural awareness.
Mm.
And he taught me a technique of getting into the zone with a breath. And that took a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time. That took a lot of time. That took years to perfect. But now it's like I take one breath in. And I don't know if you're like, have you ever served you've served at Lily Dale, right? You've served
Yeah.
up at like the Stump and that.
Yeah.
Have you ever walked down the aisle when they call you and then like all of a sudden, like you got one more step to go to before you turn around and face the crowd? And then it's like clicked in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't,
There.
I don't even think about it. I don't think about it. Whenever I do gallery, I don't think about it. I never think about anything. I'm
Yeah.
just like, yeah,
Well,
whatever, and then they call my name and I'm like, oh shit, I got to do
I
something,
know.
and I walk up there, but it's like, you get to that point where you just breathe, turn around
Yeah.
and it's absolute belief that spirit will never make you look like an idiot, because like I always
Right.
say, that you
Yeah.
can do that all by yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We sure can. We sure can. I know Angie always used to say, "Link, don't think." And once you start thinking, like it's over. You got nothing once you turn your brain on.
But
So
that's exactly it. It's like anything else. It's just a skill like anything else, where you go and you can just grab it and move it and do it. It's the
yeah.
same thing with healing. It's the same thing with anything. And that's where when I do I do the psychic walkthroughs.
Yeah.
Come in. I don't want to know anything. Leave me alone. Let me go. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, my favorite thing is if they call me in to do something, I will just go. I'll have a recorder. I just record my impressions at the end. I pop out the SD card, give it to the guy who's in charge, say, okay, I'm going home. I'll be in bed by midnight sleeping. You won't either. You'll be here freezing all night,
Right.
but that's just the way it works. And I think
Yeah.
uh Sharon Klingler also, she's one of my mentors, and you've taken classes with her.
Yeah.
You see how she
Mhm.
works. She's like, goes
Oh
up
yeah.
there, and,
Fast.
and and
Yeah.
Angie's the same way. Angie just walks up. She's very calm. She's
Yeah.
calm, cool, and collected, and she's like, bang,
Yeah.
And it's like having pablum of the mouth. You just don't realize it, and it
Yeah.
just comes out, and you're just happy. Let
Yeah.
me ask you this before we get on to the topic that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, when you first started getting it, I used to get letterbox, where it would be like a letterbox. It would spin in my brain. Some
Hmm.
kind of scene would spin in my brain until I could get
Hmm.
it out of my mouth, and then it would go on to something else. What was
Hmm.
it like when you first got it? When you first started getting those messages?
I don't know. Like it just came. It was just like it there, and then I would open my mouth, and you do the verbal vomit, and it just it's there.
I'm so envious of you. Years I had to work through that. Years. It was just the way it worked. Now, let's talk about the vessel. We're talking about our bodies. We're talking
Hmm.
about the physical body that's holding that spirit and everything together here. How important do you feel health is when we start talking about mediumship, when we start talking about healing, we start talking about becoming a universal vessel for
Yeah.
spirit? How important do you think it is?
I mean, from my own personal experience, I mean, I think it's like I don't want to say everything, but so important. The healthier you are, I feel like if you're not healthy, you've got some kind of blocks somewhere,
Right.
right?
Right.
So the healthier you are, the more open you are, the more able you are to channel is the word that I wanted to come out of my
Mhm.
mouth. But
Right.
essentially that's kind of what's happening, whether you're doing the readings or you're doing the healings. So yeah.
Stamina wise,
Oh
do you think how important is it to be of good health in order to do this work? Because now my maximum people that I've read in one day is like 84 or 86 people.
yeah.
And that was when I was younger and I was not too smart. So it was like, it was crazy. you need that stamina in order to do something like that.
Yeah, you do.
But let's just knock that whole, the reading sideshow carny bit, throw it off to the side. And I say that respectfully, guys. Respectfully, don't get on me. It's just the way it's just my description of it. I was always taught if you weren't in balance, you could not really, you couldn't communicate
Mm-hmm.
the words of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
How true do you feel that statement is?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking about picturing in my mind a wide variety of mediums that I know that seem to be in different levels of health, shall we say.
Yes.
And, I haven't been to all of them, so I don't know, what kind of messages they give or how they read, but I just know for my own self what you were talking about, like the stamina, and you said you read for 86 people, which is a bit unusual in the day. It's like, yeah, not everybody's a superhero like you, but
listen,
but,
I'll let you borrow my cape anytime you want, Leslie. Really?
Oh yeah, I might need it. I might need it. I'm going to do the Earth Spirit Expo, and so maybe I'll need that. But
you'll be busy. You'll be busy.
Yeah. So, but I just know of even just spending the day at Dragonfly, if she's got an event going from like 11 to 4, and I'm booked up like pretty much the whole day. I'm ravenous. Like first there's this like high, I feel like it's fabulous. I've just helped a whole bunch of people, and so I'm living my life's purpose, and I feel fabulous. I'm starving, then I go get myself something to eat, and then about an hour later I am like wiped. Like, do not ask me to do anything.
Right.
So I can't imagine if I went into it not feeling as good as I do every day.
You have to. And that's something that people don't realize. In order to do the work properly, you've got to really balance yourself. And I just had a televisit with I was telling you before off the air, I had a televisit with a nutritionist, because a lot of you guys know that I've really embraced my, trying to get this old dilapidated body back into some kind of like balance. And she asked me what my schedule was when I went to a big conference. And I said, well, 8:30 in the morning, you got to be at your table 8:30 in the morning. You're working there. Sometimes, you'll break for lunch, maybe if you get the chance. Or if you're like me, you're wandering around, you're shaking hands and kissing babies, you're running, you're schmoozing, you're networking. Then you're doing readings. And the one thing that I can say is that if I don't take care of myself, if I don't eat, if I don't really pace myself anymore, the readings become shallow. They become, and I rely, and just for everybody out there, I always tell people, you should, if you're running into problems, use a grocery list where it's like you follow like a standard, like relationships, finances, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that when I'm, as I go out of balance, I'm using that more and more and more.
Mm-hmm. So
now, what I've found since I've been back to the gym 9 months and I've dropped weight, and my A1C is normal, and my therapist has put the screwdriver in my head and tweaked my brain a little bit, so that I can go out and be more receptive to everything. I find that I'm feeling more in balance, and thus when I'm more in balance, all of a sudden now things are really smoothed out. But on that note, I have established boundaries. I do 15-minute readings. I only do so many readings in a day now. I don't go crazy. How important is it for physical boundaries to the work that we're doing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're exhausted, like like you said, the messages aren't as good, I'm thinking about, one night there was something going on at Saturday at Dragonfly. And then I think I had like book club, which sounds like nothing, right?
Right. Oh no, it is.
But my friends don't like to start till 8:00. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to bed at 9:30. How can I start at 8? And, I was worried, right? So, I normally am up like super early at like 5:30. So that particular night I went to bed at like 11:30, 12. And, I didn't get up and like moving. I just laid in bed and just as long as I could, because I knew I needed that, extra energy, that extra brain power. which is funny to say you need brain power because you're not really using your brain, right? You're linking, not thinking, but yet it still does take a lot of your energy too.
I think the thing of it is that, I mean, as a paranormal investigator, I can attest to the paranormal hangover. That's what we call it,
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're out there all night long and you're doing different things and you're really focused on, not the spiritual mediumship side, the nuts and bolts recorders and meters and that sort of stuff. I can tell you that I get exhausted. And
Yeah.
you go to these conferences and it's hysterical because these guys, you see each other like once a year and these guys are partying. Well, 10:30. This kid's this kid's walking backwards through the elevator to get back to his room, because it's exhausting. It is so exhausting.
Yeah.
And I can say that on a good day, when you have to use any part of your brain, and again, it's funny because, like you said, you're allowing it. You're not really using your brain for the work, but in a way, yes, you are, because you're allowing that energy to come through you, and you're allowing your body to become the vessel, and that is what really is pushing it so much. And that's what I think. That's why it's so important to actually go and have that rest. When I was younger, I'd get off the well.
Oh, I know.
Wait a minute. Here's the perfect example. 28 hours I get stuck in Detroit last year, right? Maybe I slept 45 minutes. I'm wandering the Detroit terminal, during a tornado. Next morning, fly to Sault Ste. Marie, bus trip in. I have 45 minutes from check-in to when I have to go and do gallery.
Oh, Jesus.
Took a quick shower, did it. Great. My friend Exie was there with me. The two of us were bouncing off each other. It was work great. And then it was like someone started to slowly turn me off, because by supper, I couldn't even speak properly because my brain was so muddled. And I actually went and had to take a nap at night, or, right after dinner, because I couldn't function anymore. So when we start talking about boundaries, it's not just a physical boundary, but also, do you have it when you start working spiritually or healing wise? Do you have boundaries in those modalities?
Yeah, I mean, like energetic boundaries.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I feel like the energetic boundaries come like at the end of the healing, right? Like when you kind of prep your room and like get it ready, clear out the old, right?
Yep.
Get ready for your clients. And then, like you don't want any of their crap left with you. So
the ick.
You don't want the ick. You don't want the ick. So you do have to clear up and I'm sitting in my Reiki room in my basement of my house right now. I don't want that spreading to the rest of my house and to my family. So yes, there is energetic boundaries there too.
It's funny now, and my energetic boundaries are very, very simple. I don't work out of my house, except like if I'm doing something like this. If I'm doing a phone, I don't do phone readings or anything really. But if I'm doing something that I'm on airs, I will do that. But I won't do it as like have people come to my house for readings. I don't do that because of the fact that 2 reasons. I don't want that ick residue here. And secondly, I have like a whole room beyond my camera here that's set up with haunted objects. I don't want them bothering me. I want them to just stay right where you are in your cases, and everything's nice and easy, But energetic boundaries, people don't get. Now, when we start talking about the mind, body, spirit connection, do you feel that, we all have the chakra points. Do you feel that we can do a good job with let's say 1 or 2 chakras that are not perfectly aligned? Or do you think that it's something that we always are I'm always constantly working on that. Do you think that it's something that we have to really work on in order to be that perfect vessel?
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a process, right? Like, because I don't want to say you let your guard down, because it's a lifestyle, right? Like you've started this new lifestyle of going to the gym and, going to the nutritionist and your diet is, I would imagine, is different than what you were eating before. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not that you're letting your guard down, but yeah.
I think that what a lot of us have to do to achieve that balance is just go and you guys know how I am on Facebook. Show up, just show up. I'm like I'm like a 1980s wrestler. That's the way I come off when I'm on there. But how difficult is it? Would you say? Now I know what it's like for me. How difficult would you say it is in order to like balance everything all in one? And once you get it in balance, how hard is it to keep it in balance?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like we're all like the Weebles, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. But sometimes we do, right? Because for people are like, it's like I always talk about the balance theme of life. You are like, shoot, something's out of focus over here. I'm gonna, work on, I don't know, a relationship popped up into my head. I'm gonna work on this relationship over here. Okay, that's great. Well, now my work life is falling apart, and then now I'm not taking care of my body, so it is kind of a balance. I feel like you can only really focus on one particular thing at a time, but you do have to set yourself up with a lifestyle, right? It's those small daily habits. And like you posted recently about, it's not motivation, guys. It's discipline, right?
That's all it is.
So,
That's
yeah.
exactly what it is. Do you feel that discipline? This is what I know that I blow some people's minds when I say this, especially like beginning students. Talent is nothing. Talent is nothing. You know what? Everybody can do what we do. Talent is nothing. But how important do you feel discipline is into what we do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. It's important because I even feel like, and I think the discipline, just comparing it to the gym, you got to show up every day, right? You got to show up regularly. And it's not like if you don't do a reading in a while, you forget how to do it or anything. But there is, at least for me, like that moment of like, oh, it's been like a whole week, okay, all right, it takes you a minute or so to just hop right back into it. But if you are doing it regularly, the discipline is there, even if that means you're practicing on your own,
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And it's funny because you don't have to read for somebody else. You can just flip a couple cards and it's almost like muscle memory. Here's a good question for you, Leslie. Muscle memory.
Yeah.
Your brain's a muscle. How important do you think muscle memory is to what we do? Because muscle memory is something that's important both in our physical being and our spiritual being. So how important do you feel that is?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's, and I'm kind of chuckling because muscle memory, yes, important for Reiki and like healings and readings. But at the same token, it's almost like you got to shut off your muscle. Like, you're almost doing the opposite of like what you're doing at the gym. You're trying to build them up. You're building them up in a different way to kind of like turn them down a little bit. So that way just, the universal, whatever energy can come through.
I agree. Bill has another question for us. Bill just reminded me of when I had 3 hours before I had to catch my flight out after filming when I was in Bay City. Yeah, those were the fun days. Anyway, Bill, Leslie, he asked, Leslie, when you started doing this, did you have a lot of self-doubt? Good question, Bill.
Yeah, that is a great question. Yeah, I think the self-doubt comes in with, what we talked a little bit about earlier is like, you think a lot of it is your imagination. Like, am I just making this up or am I really supposed to say that? And sometimes the things that, they want you to say are like, no, I'm not saying that. And then you're like, all right, I'll say it. And then they're like, oh my God, yeah. So yeah, I think it's,
yeah, I think that's so important. I really do think that's so important. And self-doubt. And if you don't have self-doubt, I always tell people, if you're not doubting yourself, you're doing something wrong.
yeah.
Because I can turn my self-doubt off.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm always like, what the hell am I doing? What am I saying? How am I? But I think it's so important that we do have that because I guess mentally, it balances us out and it keeps us honest. I really do. I really believe that keeps us honest. Spiritually, when we're on that spiritual plane, we are just like, okay, this is blah. Spirit is like, okay, bang, 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 hitting you, and then your brain, your logical brain, because we're all taught to, to be logical. And
Yeah.
all of a
Right.
sudden it's like, I
It's
don't
not
know.
logical.
No, no, no. And then I know even physically, I know the signs of my own body going and saying, hey, you guys,
Hmm.
you got to relax here a little bit. You got to go and you've got to say this, because otherwise I can feel it in my
Hmm.
solar plexus. I can feel it in my gut,
Hmm.
and at
Right.
that point it's like, okay, the connection is telling me, just say
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
Leslie, what's the worst thing that can
Yeah.
happen if you're wrong? They
Right.
say
I know.
you're wrong, and you're
I
like,
know.
and that's where you come up with your snappy retort and say, what do you
Right.
think? I'm an author. I can make stuff up better than what Spirit's telling me about this. What do you want? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
Right.
say that. What am I saying? I'm not going to lie there. I'm not going to lie about that. I throw that at people all the time when they give you that blank look.
Yeah.
Fear. Let me ask you about fear, about what we're doing, what you're doing. At the end of the day, you've had a busy day. Is there ever a time when you fear that perhaps you may have brought something home with you? You might have gotten somebody's ick, or are you like me, that I get out in that car and I just go, hit me with that energy wash, baby. I just leave
Yeah.
everybody behind. Do you ever have
Yeah.
that? Did you ever have that fear?
Yeah. Knock on wood. No, not yet. Um, and I don't know if that's, you know, I guess I have encountered a few people maybe that acted like I'm physically like brushing myself off, right?
Mhm.
Like not too many of them. But I also feel like the intention is just of like love, light, and healing. And like that's what I put around me. So there isn't room for that
It's the intention. It's the
to
intention of
be.
not keep, and that's where I think a lot of us go wrong. Is I think a lot of us just leave out the intention. We automatically go in there, put ourselves on autopilot. We've done all the extra work. Body got your brain in some kind of like into some kind of autotron, but we don't hit that intention switch. We don't hit it, and that's what really I think we're running into problems. Hey, speaking about running into problems, we're already running late. Not running late.
Yeah.
We're getting toward the end of the show.
Yeah.
Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, and what are some of the events that you're going to be doing and coming up, and what else is going on in the wonderful wacky world of the amazing Leslie.
Yeah, sure. I got some events coming up. First, you can find me at Leslie's Reiki Station. And on Instagram, I'm a_healthy_spirit. This Saturday, I'll be at Dragonfly doing their Feed Your Soul Expo with Reiki and readings. I have next week, so that's the 23rd and 24th, Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm doing a Reiki 1 class. So if that's on their radar, you know, it's here, it's now, it's ready. I am going to do the Earth Spirit Expo in February, so I'm super excited about that. And then I have Reiki 2 also coming in February also, and then the Reiki 3 will come after that. So a couple other events coming up at Dragonfly, but yeah.
Fantastic. And Angie goes, great show. I'm proud of you, Leslie. See, Angela, isn't she? She's amazing. I always tell her. I told her she's amazing before. Real quick question from Jean here. Let me just scroll up. I found it. Here we are. I wanted to ask you both, how do you protect yourselves?
Yeah. So for me, I would say always like surrounding by the white light before I start.
Me, I just eat chili. I just eat chili, and chili takes care of everything. It's a universal gas that will kill anything negative around you. No, I mean, I go under the a little different. I mean, everything comes from within. So if your intention is nothing is going to attach, nothing is going to affect. It's everything is from within. Bang.
Yeah.
And that's what the production producer always said. He goes, these people are out there praying. You walk in there like
Oh
gangbusters.
yeah.
It's like, well, it's all
Yeah.
belief. If you already believe, you're all set to
You're
rock
right.
and roll.
That's true. And it's like the fear almost attracts that.
Yeah, it's true. Like attracts like. It's probably one of the biggest things that we have. It's you know what, I'm a firm believer that nice centers attract some nice people, and those who
Mm-hmm.
fall away are meant just to learn from whatever you're doing, learn from you, and leave.
Yeah.
And I say by centers, it's just not like buildings or locations. It's people, because people become
Yeah.
centers,
Right.
and that's fine. That's the way it has to be. It's just the way it works. But like will attract like, and it's like everybody, they just don't get that whole concept, and it's just
Yeah.
it's the same thing. I don't know how many times people have come up to me in the gym, and they're like, "What are you doing? Or what are you training for? What do you do?" And it's like, well, this is what I do. And they're like, "Oh, well, that makes sense that you're
Which,
working to do this, you know?"
but you told them you're training so you don't fall and break a hip or like.
Hey, I had some kid ask me, because I kind of like, I triple up on things. I'll do a bicep curl with the dumbbell, and then I'm doing bench crunches, and I'm doing bench twists, and then I go back to do it. And he goes, "What are you training for?" And I said, "Listen, I'm not training for anything. You train so you look good for the ladies. Me, I
Yeah.
train so that I can just move in the morning. That's all. That's the way it works, you know." That's exactly the way it works with us, you
Uh-huh.
know. You got to think about it like that. But I mean, on the flip side, a lot of people, I do get a lot of messages from Facebook. They're going, do you think that what you're doing is helping your mediumship? And I can't say that it's helping my
Mm,
mediumship, but I am saying that if you feel better, I think
yeah.
that you become a more perfect vessel for
Yeah.
spirit, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the way people have got to look at it. Now, Leslie, one last huge important question. I always pull this out on all my friends, all my
Okay. Oh
favorite
boy.
friends. I throw this out at them, and
All right.
and
I'm sitting up, getting ready.
inevitably they all sit there for a couple seconds and just shake their heads. At the end of this all, at the end of it all, right? What epitaph do you want on your tombstone?
Oh gosh.
There you go. I got.
Um,
I
yeah.
see the hesitancy.
Yeah. The first thing that's coming into mind, but I can't remember exactly how it is like it's this saying something about like, life, like it's basically enjoy your life, right? Like we're all dying, right? So just live your life to the fullest and
Exactly.
enjoy, right? Like we enjoy. I guess we'll keep it like super simple. Enjoy. It's probably not going to say that, but for time's sake, that's what I'm going with.
My favorite one, uh, recently, she she said she finally shut up. That's what she wants on her tombstone. I said, "Oh, perfect." Leslie, stick
Oh my
around for a
god.
couple seconds. I want to thank you off the air properly, and I'm gonna go, and we'll shut down the show for the evening. But you've been a total delight. See, I told you this was going to be like the easiest, fun show that you've ever been
Yes, it
on.
was. It was great. Thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
one
having
last
me.
one last thing. Are you still doing the readings at Dragonfly on Facebook during the day with Sarah Carr?
Yes. Like the Friday afternoons. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because I wanted everybody to if you guys haven't seen the two of them work together, check them out. They're on the I think they're broadcast on the Dragonfly. Are they
Yes.
on the
Hmm.
okay, on the Dragonfly Art and Soul Facebook page, and check them out, and you won't be sorry. So hold on there, Leslie, and we'll be talking to you off the air.
Okay. Thanks.
Take
See
care.
you, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wasn't she great? I knew that we were going to have a great conversation. And it's so important to have that connection, that mind, body, spirit connection. It was always taught to me, but yet it wasn't really clear to me. And until I actually went and I experienced it for myself. And I went from being super clear to muddied, muddled, whatever. And now it's all going back into balance. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And again, we talked earlier. You don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be a superstar. Just show up. That's all you got to do is show up. And I'm not talking about the gym. I'm always yelling at people about to show up at the gym. No, it's show up. Show up to a class. Show up to a church service. Show up. Be exposed. That's what's important. Be exposed. The more you're exposed to this type of philosophy, the more it's going to stick. the more it sticks, the more open you become. The more open you become, the more whole you become. You become that whole person that's so important. So, guys, this is Tim Shaw. Thank you guys for listening in. You've been listening to the Black Cat Lounge here on, well, my own network, right? I'm the CEO of my own network. I can put that on my resume now. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Where else? Where the elite meet, next to the dumpster transfer station. Ciao, babies. Be good. See you next week. Bye-bye. And stay warm. Those of you in Western New York, don't do anything stupid for a day or so. Stay warm. Bye-bye.